All right. Chapter 12. Oh, I just realized Valancy's going home alone. This would be an excellent time for Barney Snaith to show up and for them to have a good meet cute. Oh, this could be the really good stuff, chat. Are you ready? Are you ready, chat? Chapter 12. Valancy hurried home through the faint blue twilight, hurried too fast, perhaps. The attack she had when she thankfully reached the shelter of her own room was the worst yet. It was really very bad. She might die in one of those spells. It would be dreadful to die in such pain. Perhaps this was death. Valancy felt pitifully alone. When she could think at all, she wondered what it would be like to have someone with her who could sympathize, someone who really cared. Just to hold her hand tight, if nothing else. Someone just to say, "Yes, I know. It's dreadful. Be brave, you'll soon be better." Not someone merely fussy and alarmed. Not her mother or cousin Stickles. Oh, but why did the thought of Barney Snaith come into her mind? Why did she suddenly feel, in the midst of this hideous loneliness of pain, that he would be sympathetic, sorry for anyone that was suffering? Why did he seem to her like an old, well-known friend? Was it because she had been defending him, standing up to her family for him? She was so bad at first that she could not even get herself a dose of Dr. Trent's prescription. But eventually she managed it, and soon after, relief came. The pain left her, and she lay on her bed, spent, exhausted, in a cold perspiration. Oh, that had been horrible. She could not endure many more attacks like that. One didn't mind dying if death could be instant and painless, but to be hurt so in dying? Suddenly, she found herself laughing. That dinner had been fun, and it had all been so simple. She had merely said the things she had always thought. Their faces, oh, their faces. Uncle Benjamin, poor flabbergasted Uncle Benjamin. Valancy felt quite sure he would make a new will that very night. Olive would get Valancy's share of his fat hoard. Olive had always got Valancy's share of everything. Remember the dust pile? To laugh at her clan as she had always wanted to laugh was all the satisfaction she could get out of life now. But she thought it was rather pitiful that it should be so. Might she not pity herself a little when no one else did? Valancy got up and went to her window. The moist, beautiful wind blowing across groves of young-leafed wild trees touched her face with the caress of a wise, tender old friend. The Lombardis in Mrs. Treadgold's lawn off to the left, Valancy could just see them between the stable and the old carriage shop, were in dark purple silhouette against a clear sky, and there was a milk-white pulsating star over just one of them, like a living pearl on a silver-green lake. Far beyond the station were the shadowy, purple-hooded woods around Lake Missatoise. A white, filmy mist hung over them, and just above it was a faint young crescent. Valancy looked at it over her thin left shoulder. "I wish," she said whimsically, "that I may have one little dust pile before I die." We move on very quickly now to chapter 13. Uncle Benjamin found he had reckoned without his host when he promised so airily to take Valancy to a doctor. Valancy would not go. Valancy laughed in his face. "Why on earth should I go to Miss Dr. Marsh? There's nothing the matter with my mind, though you all think I've suddenly gone crazy. Well, I haven't. I've simply grown tired of living to please other people and have decided to please myself. It will give you something to talk about besides my stealing the raspberry jam. So that's that." "Doss," said Uncle Benjamin solemnly and helplessly, "you are not like yourself." "Who am I like, then?" asked Valancy. Uncle Benjamin was rather posed. "Your grandfather wants Bara," he answered desperately. "Thanks." Valancy looked pleased. "That's a real compliment. I remember Grandfather Wandsbara. He was one of the few human beings I have known, almost the only one. Now, it's of no use to scold or entreat or command Uncle Benjamin, or exchange anguished glances with Mother and Cousin Stickles. I'm not going to any doctor, and if you bring any doctor here, I won't see him. So what are you going to do about it? What indeed? It was not seemly or even possible to hail Valancy doctor words by physical force, and in no other way could it be done seemingly. Her mother's tears and imploring entreaties availed not. "Don't worry, Mother," said Valancy, lightly but quite respectfully. "It isn't likely I'll do anything very terrible, but I mean to have a little fun." "Fun?" Mrs. Frederick uttered the word as if Valancy had said she was going to have a little tuberculosis. I don't know why that line hit me as so funny. A little tuberculosis. Oh. A little tuberculosis, she says. Olive had been sent by her mother to see if she had any influence over Valancy, but she came away with flushed cheeks and angry eyes. She told her mother that nothing could be done with Valancy, after she, Olive, had talked to her just like a sister, tenderly and wisely. All Valancy had said, narrowing her funny eyes to mere slips, was, "I don't show my gums when I laugh." More as if she were talking to herself than to me. Indeed, Mother, all the time I was talking to her, she gave me the impression of not really listening, and that wasn't all. When I finally decided that what I was saying had no influence over her, I begged her, when Cecil came next week, not to say anything queer before him. At least, Mother, what do you think she said? "I'm sure I can't well imagine," groaned Aunt Wellington, prepared for anything. "She said, 'I'd rather like to shock Cecil. His mouth is too red for a man's.' Mother, I can never feel the same to Valancy again." "Her mind is affected, Olive," said Aunt Wellington solemnly. "You must not hold her responsible for what she says." When Aunt Wellington told Mrs. Frederick what Valancy had said to Olive, Mrs. Frederick wanted Valancy to apologize. "You made me apologize to Olive 15 years ago for something I didn't do," said Valancy. "That old apology will do for now." Another solemn family conclave was held. They were all there except the cousin Gladys, who had been suffering such tortures of neuritis in her head, ever since poor Doss went queer, that she couldn't undertake any responsibility. They decided, that is, they accepted a fact that was thrust in their faces, that the wisest thing was to leave Valancy alone for a while. "Give her a head," as Uncle Benjamin expressed it. "Keep a careful eye on her, but let her pretty much alone." The term of watchful waiting had not been invented then, but that was practically the policy Valancy's distracted relatives decided to follow. "We must be guided by developments," said Uncle Benjamin. "It is," solemnly, "easier to scramble eggs than unscramble them. Of course, if she becomes violent—" Uncle James consulted Dr. Ambrose Marsh. Dr. Ambrose Marsh approved their decision. He pointed out to irate Uncle James, who would have liked to lock Valancy up somewhere out of hand, that Valancy had not as yet really done or said anything that could be construed as proof of lunacy. And without proof, you cannot lock people up in this degenerate age? What in the fuck? Without proof, you cannot lock people up in this degenerate age? What in the world is that sentence? That is such a product of the times. I mean, like, it's not like it's unexpected because it's coming from the bad part of the family, which is the entire family. But, like, in this degenerate age really puts a punch in it. Like, this doctor had been used to locking people up for looking at him weird. And he's like, nowadays you need proof for that kind of thing. What in the world? The 1910s, man. Yeah, right? That's hardcore. That doc is hardcore. All right. I mean, judging by today's standards, that's so bad. Judging by that day's standards, that's so bad. Like, the reason he's saying that is because they understood at that time that that was a bad thing to do. In that day, it was a bad thing. That's what the funny part is. Wow. This is why I like reading old books. Sometimes you find some gems. We got Pussy Island and locking people up for anything. I mean, that we at least have to work Pussy Island into a running gag on the channel, right? I don't know how, but Pussy Island needs to be remembered. Okay. Nothing that Uncle James had reported seemed very alarming to Dr. Marsh, who put up his hand to conceal a smile several times. Oh, so maybe he was being sarcastic. But then he himself was not a Sterling, and he knew very little about the old Valancy. Uncle James stalked out and drove back to Deerwood, thinking that Ambrose March wasn't much of a doctor after all, and that Adelaide Sterling might have done better for herself.